Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to another Sims 4 speedrunning video, or welcome to the channel if you are new here. So in today's video I'm going to be building the world of Myshuno, which is a world that we got from the expansion pack of Sims 4 City Living, and I'm going to be renovating, nearly said building then, but I'm going to be renovating a studio apartment that's very cluttered and quite cosy. So this apartment ends up having one bedroom, if I could even class it as that. Hasn't got a door, but there is a bed up there. But there is one bedroom space and then one bathroom. And I'm building in the area of Myshuno, which is called the Arts Quarter. I'm not exactly sure on the exact apartment name, but if you're curious, you can always look in the top left corner of the screen. And I always purposely leave the original lot name there, just, you know, in case you want to pop it down into your game. But yeah, today, I just thought it'd be really fun to sit down and do an apartment renovation. Now, renovating apartments isn't something that I do that often, and if I'm being honest, I've kind of like neglected apartments on my channel, because for the longest time I went months and I just didn't renovate apartments. But they're actually really fun to do, because sometimes you just want to furnish and sometimes you don't necessarily want to sit down and build a whole like 3-4 bedroom house with loads of bathrooms and stuff. Sometimes it's just really nice to pretty much jump straight in to the interior design. Also, I do want to mention, if you're someone that watches my channel regularly, it is Wednesday. I'm really sorry if it threw you off. Unfortunately, it's not Friday, it is Wednesday. If you are familiar with my channel, you'll know, but I only typically upload once a week, and it's on a Friday evening for me. I'm not sure what time it is normally for the rest of you, but it's normally on a Friday evening. But yeah, no, this week I just really fancy just doing an apartment renovation, and the apartment itself is quite short and sweet, and so yeah, I thought I'd share it today. But anyway, moving on from that and actually getting on and talking a little bit more about the apartment and also what I'm doing right now. So as you can see, I've already figured out the floor plan for this one. Now, this apartment, I feel like the floor plan can be quite tricky, because it is basically just a big square. There's no little bump outs, there's no like little inny bits, so there's nothing to kind of get a good floor plan of, because sometimes when I do floor plans for either apartments or houses, if there's an exterior wall that's got a little bit of a bump out or a little bit of a bump in, it makes it so much easier for kind of like the floor plan and like the layout of what the interior is going to be like. But for this apartment where I'm building, yeah, it's literally just one big box, and so where it is built on the tallest wall height, I decided to section it off, so it's kind of like a little lofted section. That's what eventually ends up being the bedroom, in quotation marks, section of this apartment, but we'll move over to that shortly. Currently I'm just coming in and doing kind of like the little lounge sitting room area, but then it also kind of doubles up to be the sim that's going to be living in this apartment, their like home office section. Now for this apartment, I am renovating it for my save file. It's one of the reasons why I just really wanted to sit down and do an apartment renovation, because for my save, I've got a few different apartment renovations, but I really need to get a bit of a jiggle on. And so this is going to be for my save file, and it's for a pre-existing sim that already lives in the world of Myshuno, and their name is Salim Benali. I've probably butchered that, and I'll pop a little picture of what it looks like on the screen so you can kind of get your bearings of who I'm talking about. But it's a pre-existing townie that comes with the City Living expansion pack, and by default he lives in this apartment. Now, he's meant to be a writer, but basically he's a bit lazy, and he's been meaning to write a book, but he just either naps or eats or just spends time playing video games, which I can relate to that. And so for his apartment, I wanted it to feel very cluttered but then also cozy. It's not necessarily messy, but it's just kind of like it's an apartment for a guy who I imagine is probably around about 26, 27. He has no one helping him out with the housework, and so over time things just kind of accumulate in spaces. Like I said, not messy, but you know, something could probably do with being put in the drawer or being put away or something. He just kind of leaves things out. Now, I have already given this sim a makeover. I gave him a makeover a little while back, I can't lie to you, but I am so happy with the way that he looks now, because beforehand, don't get me wrong, he was a good looking sim. Alright, like he was a good looking sim. I often used to get my sims to, you know, romance with him. But since I've given him his makeover, the jawline on this man, I'll pop a little picture of what he looks now. I'll give you a full outfit. You can kind of see what his new top and his trousers and his trainers are going to look like. I did remove his beard, but the thing is, his beard was hiding his beautiful like face structure, and so he still has got a little bit of fluff, if you want to put it that way. There's still something there, but it's a little bit more trimmed back, which now looking back on it, maybe I should have kept the beard, because the beard kind of goes along with his lifestyle being quite messy, quite lazy. But yeah, no, when I was in Creator Sim, I remember I took his little beard off. I say little, it was actually quite a dense beard, but I took his beard off, and then I saw his face structure. I was like, why was the Sims team hiding this beautiful man's face behind this beard that kind of like hides his perfect jawline? And so, yeah, I did give him still a little bit of fluff, but a little bit more of a trimmed back look. I also did give him a nose piercing, and then I changed his hairstyle so it's kind of got like rings in the back. I can't remember exactly what pack the hairstyle was from, but my mind is telling me that it's from, you know, the Crystal Creation Stuff pack. I feel like it's from that DLC. But yeah, I changed his hairstyle. He's still got like a little ponytail, what he had going on in the first place, but I just gave it a little bit more of a updated 2025 kind of look. But either way, besides the point, moving over and actually getting back to the build, as you can see, I just finished up his like little lounge, kind of seating, breeding, and then also home office situation. You would have seen it was very cluttered in there. I placed down an odd sofa to an odd armchair. I then also use some bookcases to kind of act a bit like a divider in this apartment, because this apartment is pretty much just one big room, apart from there's a teeny tiny little bathroom just off the bedroom section. So I felt like instead of just having like a boring old wall, if I place down a wall but then underneath it I place down some bookcases and then maybe have like a little window or something, it then is still the same amount of space, but it just feels a little bit nicer in a way. But yeah, in his like little lounge section, I did also place down a computer desk, and then around it I cluttered up like random notes, and then also like a dirty coffee mug and random bits of paper like by his bin, which I imagine was maybe ideas he had for a book or something, and he's kind of like scrapped the idea and then threw the paper, tried to aim for the bin, and then it kind of missed and it's just kind of placed down next to it. But over here, as you can see, I'm currently coming in and decorating his bedroom. So in here, I did something which, hand on my heart, I have wanted to do for years. And it sounds so silly because it's like the smallest thing, but there's never been a build where I felt like it was appropriate for it. But it was to put a bed on some sort of like pallet situation. Now, pretty much from the Eco Lifestyle expansion pack, we've got these wooden pallets you can find in and around the world of Evergreen Harbour, and they're in the live edit menu. And I remember when that pack first came out, I thought, I've seen so many different beds on some sort of like pallet situation in like trendy lofted apartments and stuff, and it would just be so cool to kind of makeshift like a bed frame out of the pallets. And I've wanted to do it for years, and unless I've done it in one situation and I can't remember it, there's just never really been the appropriate time to do this kind of thing. But yeah, no, for this apartment, got to do it. And it feels like it fits in. Like having the bed on these wooden pallets, it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. It kind of goes with the rest of the vibe of the apartment. But yeah, like I said, the wooden pallets are from Eco Lifestyle. And then the bed that I popped on top of it, that is from the Lovestruck expansion pack. If you're wondering, by the way, it is fully functional. I have playtested this whole entire apartment. I run into one minor issue which I've now since fixed, and I haven't even done it yet, but basically, long story cut short, I placed down a chair a little bit too close to a painting on the wall, and so for some reason it made it so my sim couldn't sit on the chair, which, let's be realistic, why would that have any sort of issue? Because paintings on the wall, your feet go on the floor, how does that... Either way, I fixed it and it's now fully functional. But yeah, no, the bed works. Your Sims can get either side the bed. Made sure that was a priority. But yeah, your Sims can use the bed as they would a normal one. But either way, besides the point, moving on. As you can see, I'm now coming in and decorating his bathroom. In here, it's very small. It's a 2x2 bathroom, but there is a toilet, sink, and then also a little shower. The way that I made this functional, if you're curious, I used one of them showers in the game. I think the one that I've used is from Discover University, but we've got a few different packs that have these type of showers. But basically, in gameplay, your Sims, when they go to the loo, for example, they'll just walk over the shower drain and it doesn't really interrupt them. There is some showers in the game that kind of have like glass doors built into them, but yeah, there's a few that your Sims can just walk over, no problems. And so place that down in there, and then I also placed down kind of like a little shelf with what I was imagining would be like aftershave and just like random little bits and bobs. But now moving back on to the main section of the apartment, I'm now coming over and decorating the top of this electricity box. So over here, I tried to make it look like there was a wad of cash, which I imagine the Sim that lives in this apartment, he would probably pay a delivery driver of some sort, whether it be like a Chinese takeout or a pizza delivery guy with, and then also placed down, I was trying to move objects, this key and phone objects, just to make it look like it was just the keys and not the phone. It does end up clipping in with the phone a tiny little bit, but the colour of the phone is kind of like a similar colour tone to the brick, and so I wasn't too fussed about it in the end. But, you know, I tried to make it look like there was clutter on this electricity box. Now, where I'm building in the world, this is one of the few apartments in the game that have the Needs TLC apartment. It's meant to be a lot trait, but honestly sometimes it's a bit of a lot challenge because these things break quite often. But basically in San Myshuno there is a handful of different apartments that by default they'll have electricity boxes, they'll have pipes, the plumbing, they'll have like mouse holes and drains and stuff. And normally when you go in to do an apartment renovation or something, you can't move where they are. But if you have the tool mod installed by Twisted Mexi, you can either highlight them all and completely delete them, you know, just get rid. Or if you're someone like me and you might like the gameplay of like these TLC apartments, you can just highlight them and change their location, you know, like move them to the opposite side of the wall. And so for this apartment, yeah, that is pretty much exactly what I did. I will say, if you download this build off the gallery, the original location of, say for example, the electricity box and the pipes and stuff will be where they originally was placed when City Living first came out. But if you just have the tool mod, you can just, you know, shift them into a position that you're happy with, or maybe the same position that I've used. But like I said, I'm building this for my save file, and so when my save file comes out, they'll just be relocated in like a different position or something. But either way, moving over, as you can see, I finished up that section. I also lobbed a bike, well, you know what I mean, but I placed down a little bike onto the wall, the bike decoration on the opposite wall. That is from the Businesses and Hobbies at debug menu. I liked the idea of this sim having a bike. Doesn't ride it, it's too lazy for it, but it's kind of like decoration to go with the apartment. And so yeah, I just popped it down onto the opposite wall. Over here I placed down a bubble blower, and in front of it I placed down some armchairs. The yellow armchair is the one that I had a problem when it came around to playtesting. For some reason my sim could not sit on that armchair and, you know, use the bubble blower. All I ended up doing was quite literally just shifting that bottom left painting over about a centimetre, and then my sim could sit there. And so yeah, it is now fully functional, but for some reason that was the one issue that came around to playtesting. Not the fact that I merged in wooden pallets into the bed, it was the fact that the painting on the wall was a little bit too close to the chair. Honestly, sometimes the logic in this game really makes no sense to me whatsoever. But in The Sims original apartment, he had a bubble blower, and I didn't want to take that away from him. And so yeah, for my renovation I decided to re-add it back in. But now moving on, as you can see, I'm finally coming in and actually decorating the kitchen. Now it's something that I wanted to mention, which I didn't even know until literally this point, because you're going to see some of the things go red in the catalogue. This whole entire time I was building with this pre-existing townie's original budget. Whenever I do my speed builds normally, I will always have this one sim, and it's been the same sim literally for years, and she's got millions in the bank. I always build with her on the lot because I personally prefer the way that the lighting looks that way, and so always got some money going in at the bottom left corner of the screen. You know, the money's always going. And when it came around to decorating this apartment, I didn't move her in because the pre-existing townie was already attached to this apartment, and so I saw the money going. I just didn't think anything of it because to me that's normal. But then it wasn't until I came around to decorate the kitchen, and then some of the items in the catalogue were going red to indicate you ain't got the funds for that, I then realised this whole entire time I had been building with the townie's original household funds. But I didn't want to cheat it so he had more money, because I then liked the idea that, well, now you don't actually have to cheat him some money to move in. So yeah, the kitchen ends up being a little bit less cluttered in comparison to the rest of the apartment, but I kind of like the idea that he doesn't really use the kitchen that much anyway, and so it does kind of make sense in my mind. I will say I did add in like 1 or 2 extra pieces of clutter, because when I was taking the screenshots, the counters did look quite bare. But other than that, I'm going to go around this apartment, finish it off by making some final touches, and that is pretty much it. So anyway guys, I'm going to end this voiceover right here. As always, you can download this build via the gallery. My gallery ID is JessicapieYT, or just search for the hashtag JessicapieYT or just the hashtag Jessicapie. As always, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, if you do like my content then please do subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in my next Sims 4 speedrunning video. Bye guys.